have our Monday circuit, 45 minutes. We are working on stability. So we're kind of dusting off the rest and the relaxation from the weekend, and we're focusing on stabilizing with our main muscle groups as we go through the circuit. So we're starting today off with a high-low plank for 40 seconds. We can get into that plank position, making sure that our shoulders are down and away from our ears. I've noticed a lot of times with high-low planks, people will slowly start to shrug more and more. Make sure that when you get to here, just pull those shoulders down and back and keep that back nice and flat by tilting that pelvis a little bit. And you're gonna go down, down, up, up. And then the hand that came up last is the one that goes down first, so that you're alternating which hand you're pushing up with, because that hand is obviously, or that shoulder is obviously gonna take the brunt of the most pressure and strength. So we wanna alternate that. So then we'll go down, down, up, up, trying not to move our hips too much, trying to stay stable through that core by breathing. We're gonna do that for 40 seconds, and then we go into a push-up with an alternating side plank. So we're starting in the center. Okay, same thing, we're not shrugging our shoulders up, they're down away from our ears. We're going down into our push-up, coming up, and then pushing into a side plank, coming back. Okay, same thing, push-up, and then side plank. So we've got 8 to 10 of those. Okay, and then we're going into a dumbbell seated press with band and pull. If you watch Krista's Instagram, she did a video of this. And I was really hoping that meant that she was going to program it this week. So we're sitting, okay? We've got a dumbbell in one hand, and we've got the band in the other hand. And as you pull that band down, you're pressing this dumbbell up and then bringing them back down. So you're releasing the band, bringing the dumbbell back down, and then pushing and pulling, okay? Here, we've got to make sure that even though we're sitting, we're not letting our spine round at all. We can still be super engaged in our core and be in this sitting position as we're doing this. So we want to make sure that we're thinking of scooping that abdominal in, making sure that belly button is going back to our spine, our back is nice and straight, and then we push and pull, okay? So you have 8 on each side of those. So you just alternate which one is pushing and pulling. Then we go out onto the field, and we have, this is a series, we have a kettlebell swing snatch into a reverse lunge into our half windmill. So we're gonna start with the kettlebell at our shoulder. Okay, we're gonna swing it out, and then all the way up into our snatch. The opposite leg goes back into a reverse lunge. So if the kettlebell's in my left hand, my right leg goes back, and then I go down into that half windmill, and then come up. So I should be using this oblique when I come up. So make sure that when you go down into that ground, you don't want to kick that hip out too much. Okay, try and keep your hips nice and level, and then you can use your oblique a little more, and then just alternate the process. Bring it back down to your shoulder, swing out, snatch all the way up, reverse lunge, half windmill, okay, and then reverse this series. So you have 4 to 5 on each side. Then we go, and we got wall balls out there against the wall, okay? So you have a wall ball toss. We want to make sure that when we're tossing this, we're catching it at chest level, nice and solid. So we're gonna toss it, okay? Catch and go into that squat, making sure that our weight is in the heels of our feet, okay? And then you're gonna toss again, come back down. If you have to kind of break up the catch and the squat just so that you make sure that your mechanics are right, do that. I would rather you guys toss, catch, and then squat rather than trying to squat while you're catching and get too far forward onto your toes, okay? So take your time with that. Make sure that when you get into that squat, you can move those big toes. Then we know for sure that our weight is in the proper spot. Then we have a broad jump into a reverse squat walk back. So you can start wherever you want, blue line, yellow line, whatever spot. We're gonna broad jump. So weight, we kind of rock back onto our heels, jump off our toes, land nice and solid, and then stay in that squat as we walk back to where we started. And then we're gonna repeat that for 8 broad jumps. Then we have a banded fire hydrant. So pretend there's a band. We're gonna have a band around the tops of our knees, and we're gonna be in this tabletop position, and this leg is just gonna go straight out, okay? Again, just because our core is facing the ground doesn't mean that we just let it go. This is when it's even more important to pull that belly button and think of scooping those abdominals so you're kind of wrapping your midsection, making sure that everything's nice and tight so that when you go out to the fire hydrant, you're able to keep those hips nice and stable. And then you're gonna come in and go out. With this, I see when people do this, I see them a lot of times they'll get a super heavy band and they'll try really hard and they'll get not very high. I would rather the range of motion in your hips be full and have a lighter band than to have you guys try and use the heaviest bands we've got and have your range of motion really small. We want to work on hip mobility, and this is a really good one for that. And it's really good at isolating this glute medius that if you don't get the right range of motion, you won't quite get that activation. So make sure